Life is sweet. Let it sweep you off your feet.
Hi, it's Ali, and find your joy. Do remember to like and subscribe. Hi, and today we are going to chat a little bit about my upcoming children's books. The first one will be coming out pretty soon. I can't give the exact date because, well, it's just in the process of being colorized right now, and I'm not sure how long all of these things take, but it's coming. And I've created a series of books called the Don't Be Scared, Be Prepared series. And the first one is called Look Around and Ground with Ginger and the Fun Bunch. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the books and I guess more importantly, why I decided I'm going to write these books and what it's all about. I was a kid that had a lot of anxieties, like a lot of anxieties. Those of you who know my story, I come from a rather, I had a lot of trauma in my childhood and and then in my early adult life, sexual trauma and physical trauma and things like that happening. And I think I was even just might have been wired. I don't really know if I was just wired to be anxious already. I can't really speak to that. I guess we'll never know. Um, but at any rate, I was a kid that was had a lot of anxiety. And I didn't really know how to handle that anxiety. So throughout my life, I've handled it with food and with gambling and shopping and dysfunctional relationships, drinking. There was many ways that I handled it. Wait a second, now I got to do my little quotation marks. That's how I handled it. Because I didn't understand it. And then what to do with it, I just knew that I was overrun with terror. I don't call them anxiety attacks. I call them terror attacks because it is like terror just comes in and completely takes over. And and I wanted to find a way. I thought, man, if kids could start to learn about how fear and anxiety and trauma and even just the jitters or just being a little bit worried about something, how we process that in our body, and I guess more importantly, how to process it in our body so that it's not taking us. We can actually speak calmness to our own bodies and how all that works. So I wanted to be able to share that with kids. And the don't be scared, be prepared part came because our grandkids are 16 and 20 now. And I didn't have a lot of this information about healing and wellness. Well, our kids were small. I was still processing trauma at that point. Unfortunately, that's just the truth of it. So I didn't really fully understand it all. Now, once they got to just before teen and around that area, I was starting to know a lot more. And so we were in counseling and doing stuff like that. But I hadn't, then I was taking courses and I was understanding, so many different courses I took and a lot of counseling. Did I mention the counseling? And finding out about how to process what happens inside our bodies. Because if you're a person who struggles with anxiety, I don't have to tell you about this, but it literally looks like the world looks differently if you don't know this. If you're a person who hasn't dealt with a lot of anxiety, you might not know this. So maybe this is new information to you. I'm not sure. A person who has what we would call a trauma-informed life or dealing with a lot of anxiety, there's chemicals that run through our body. And when those chemicals run through our body, when we're in the midst of dealing with anxiety, things actually physically look different to us while we're looking around. Like if you've ever seen a really low budget movie and the picture just looks different, like the leaves look different, how the people's faces look different, how they are, it used to be, what was it? The filming of something like an old soap opera. if you remember how the filming looked different than you would see would be on a movie, because the budget was different, I guess, and I'm not sure. I wouldn't say maybe the caliber of camera people was different, but just how it all looked, the filming was done differently. So I'm saying all that to say that when we're a person who lives with anxiety, when anxiety comes upon us, how the world actually looks, not just our mind, not just what we're thinking about, but it physically looks different. And so those things, of course, can increase the anxiety. Now, when we start to learn about breath work, somatic integrated trauma therapy, when we start to learn about where anxiety sits in our body, because it can be different for different people. Some people it's physically, it's in our head, as in maybe a headache, or our vision starts to feel a little bit different. Maybe our heart starts to race, maybe our stomach, maybe we start to have to go to the bathroom a lot or something. But there's different places that anxiety sits in us. And so one of the things that I learned about was how to process that, to learn through breathing, to breathe into where that trauma or anxiety is sitting, and to let it go and to release it, and to come through the other side of that, and to actually be able to come through the other side of that without it being, taking it from being hours and days and weeks and months and maybe even years of living in terror, to either shutting it down within a few moments, minutes, or seconds even, or not even having it happen at all. So that's part of what these books are going to teach on with kids, teaching kids how to process their thoughts, how to process anxiety if it comes upon them. The first book certainly is Look Around and Ground, is very much teaching kids, and it's geared towards kids age 4 to 7, but I had my own counselor read them, and she said, wow, I know adults that could use this. So it teaches about breath work, about learning how to ground, about becoming aware of our surroundings, all of those things. So that's the first book. The other books are very much about what we think about is what we create in our own life, where we go with our thoughts, how do we plant and nurture. Happiness Garden is all around planting and nurturing happy thoughts. Imagination Boots is all around how, well, it's about, we wouldn't just let our boots take us anywhere, like walking out in traffic or whatever. And the same way with our imagination. Our imagination are a great gift. They're so awesome. They let me write songs, and they let me paint paintings, and they let me write poems, and they let me write books. So many things. Imagination, people with great imagination are sometimes great at organizing. And I mean, there's just so many things we do with imaginations. And imaginations can get me imagining, what if, but what if this happens? What if that happens? I wasn't living here and now. I can't. With anxiety, I have to either be thinking about what already happened that I screwed up and I'm really upset about, or what if it happens again? Somebody hurt me before. What if they hurt me again? I did this stupid thing before. What if I do it again? So it's in the past and in the future, in the past and in the future. And all this is about staying right here in the now. So that's what the books are about. And that's kind of why I wrote them, is because I was a person who lived very much in the then and in the then being sometime in the future, or then being sometime in the past. And the only thing I really knew about the future was I was terrified of it, that I felt stoned when I wasn't stoned, that I felt like something horrible was just about to happen all the time. That's where I lived. It just haunted me. And once I got freedom from that, I wanted to share that with other people. And I really wanted to share it with kids. So I used to tell so when our grandbabies were little, and they would have sleepovers. We'd had sleepovers at least once a week, sometimes more. And when it was bedtime, it was story time. If there was going to be a pop-up tuck them in, that meant they were going to get a story read to them. which is great. They love that. Chronicles of Narnia mostly. He would read Chronicles of Narnia, sometimes other ones, but they loved the Chronicles of Narnia. But if Nana tucked them in, that meant that they got a story made up on the spot every night. That's how I did it. That's how Nana rolls. Nana rolls with, we would lay there and I would most often create a story about them. They would be in it. And whatever it was, you name it, there would be some story with some great adventure, usually a magical and made up place that we would go. I haven't actually written that book yet, but I'm going to. And there was a place that all these magical things would happen. And so that's part of how it came to be, is that the kids would say, you know, Nana, if you would write these books. And then the other part of that this came from was when our grandbabies would have their own little anxieties. I taught them, you don't need to be afraid. You just need to be prepared. So if you're going to you're going to have to talk in front of your school, in front of your class, you have to do a presentation. Don't be scared, just be prepared. So you don't have to be afraid about that. Just work hard and get prepared for it. Know what you're going to do. And if you know what you're going to do, you're going to be okay with it. And then there was certain scenarios that could be, you know, where they were afraid that something might go wrong. And I would always say, don't be scared, don't be prepared. And we would go over with them, whatever it was that they were going to face, how they needed to be prepared about that. What did they need to be? However that was, if they had to have a difficult conversation with a person, if they were going to bake something the first time, if they were going to do a presentation, if they were going to go somewhere with friends and they were a little bit anxious about that, or whatever it was, don't be scared, be prepared. So when Hannah got to be about Hannah and Kashus, I don't know how old they were, but Hannah came to me one day and said, Nana, when are you going to write the books? Because I think other kids should know this stuff too. And so here we are. Here we are with the Don't Be Scared, Be Prepared collection of books that was inspired really through my own life, my own struggles, and because Hannah told me, get it happening there, Nana. You said you were going to do it. So I'm going to share a little bit. If it's okay, I'm going to share with you a little bit about Ginger and the Fun Bunch. So there's, in this book, it starts, so there's Nana G. Now that comes because my grandkids, or our grandkids, called me Nana, and they called my mom Nana G, like great Nana, right? And so in this book, a little shout out to my mom. Nana G is one of the characters, and she has a granddaughter named Ginger. I used to be a redhead. So Ginger and the Fun Bunch are Katie Cakes, Haywood, Davy, and a dog who might be magical, we're not sure yet, named Tilly. So now a lot of this came out of how these characters evolved, or because our dear friends, Frances and Frances Dick, woo woo. If you don't know about Frances, go Google her. Frances Dick, artist extraordinaire. And Katie Cakes is our friend Kate from Auntie Kate and the Uncles of Funk. And the four of us would sit and have many dinners, and we would talk about, we just made jokes a lot about us as little kids if we'd known each other. And I said, I'm going to write a book and it's going to have us in it. So so those are the characters. The characters are the four of us when we were little, and Nana G, because we thought there should be a responsible adult. But I wanted to give a shout out to my mom. And Tilly is because for me, there is no more amazing creature on the planet than a dog. Dogs, if we could all just learn to be like a dog. Dogs are kind. Dogs are honest. Man, a dog could get in a scrap and they're gonna probably, as soon as they've sorted out who's who in the zoo, it's gonna all settle out. Dogs are protective and they're loving, and if I could just only be the person that my dog believes that I am, then I would be a wonderful person indeed. And so there was always going to be a dog in any story I would do. And so Tilly, I was originally going to write stories with Tilly being the main character, and it was going to be Pretty Tilly the super dog, or Pretty Tilly the stupendous dog, or Pretty Tilly the special dog. It was going to all be around PTSD. And I just wanted it to, then I wrote a book on trauma, and I wanted it to like expand a little bit about it. It doesn't have to all be trauma. It can be just everyday occurrences or things that as they are. So that's how that all came to be. So now Ginger came to the forefront, and it's about the pals and how they go through adventures together, and how they learn to process life, and just to find healthy ways to encourage each other, support each other, and to really to empower themselves and each other. So that's what it's about. So the first book, Look Around and Ground, is the kids are going off for a fun day, and Ginger is a person who struggles with some anxiety, and the story tells about that, and how the kids they all get together and they help Ginger to ground, to do breath work, to look around and see her environment, and to just really ground herself. And it works. It works not because it's magic, but because breath work and grounding works, and it helps blow the anxiety away. So it starts with way down at the end of a long winding road in a sleepy little town, much like yours, I suppose. Nestled behind a garden as cute as can be, lives a friendly lady who's called Nana G. And that's where it starts. And then it goes on, and Tilly and everybody comes in. So that book, I was really hoping it would be out before Christmas. It's kind of looking like it won't, unfortunately. Fingers, eyes, and toes crossed. Maybe it will be. But I just wanted to, I wanted to tell you a little bit about it, and tell you why I wrote it, who it's aimed for. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm really proud of them. I've worked hard for it, and it's been fun. And I do hope that you will grab a coffee and share it with someone you love. I'm Allie. This is Find Your Joy. Do remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you found a piece of your joy in this episode, I would love to hear about what came up for you, so that we can continue to grow the impact of this show. Thanks again. See you soon. And remember, find your joy.